You never know what the latest news is going to be in college football these days. Lock it in, West Virginia fans. We've got Mountaineers talk here again on a Friday night here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody being here, whether you're watching live, which we hope you are, because you can leave your comments and questions there in the live chat, or if you catch us on the hashtag Rewatch Squad, you are welcome as well. We've got the man, Gold and Blue Dude, here to break down West Virginia football with us. Hey, man, how's it going?
It's great, man. Another week, man. The off season is busier than people realize, and the season will be here before you know it. So take it 1 week at a time. I've had a good week. What about you?
I've had a good week. I would agree with the first statement. I don't know that I can agree with the second one, that the season is going to be here before we know it. I think
while we're going through it, it's going to seem forever. But once it gets here, I think, it's my opinion. Once it gets here, it's like that went by faster than I thought. And then the season is always 3 to 4 times faster than the off season. I mean, it's crazy. I try to take. It's the first 4 weeks that I really try to absorb, because after that, I mean, it flies. It flies.
It does that. Shortest season in American sports. Shortest season, therefore it's the longest off season by far. So we got to cherish it. But in the meantime, we've got schedules to talk about. We've got recruiting. We've got player movement through the transfer portal that is crazy. You know, I'm trying to track everyone, and I look at this transfer portal Twitter page on 247 Sports, and this thing's every few minutes they've got somebody else listed there. So hopefully we've got look at that, right on cue. Got I believe our guy Travis Kenobi stopping by to talk some West Virginia football with us.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mark, how are you?
I am doing just fine. How are you?
Doing fine. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, bud?
I'm excellent. Minus the technical difficulties I was having this evening.
Oh, yeah. I've had it myself, man.
We just got started up here, and we wanted to hit the transfer portal news, or as it is these days, speculation as much as news. So Gold and Blue Dude, you can take it away. And then we'll have Travis kick in with any thoughts about who you guys would like to see join the team.
Yeah, the big thing that's confusing to me is the West Virginia fan base itself, because we know if you're a West Virginia fan, in the regular season, a lot of the fan base was not happy with the offense, the quarterback play, the offensive line, the wide receivers dropping balls, you know, just pretty much everything about the offense they didn't like. So, you know, the season's over, and boom, Winston Wright into the transfer portal. Jarrett Daggy, Easdale, Sean Ryan, Sam Brown, a lot of these names from that bad offense headed to the portal. And now the West Virginia fan base is freaking out about it. Oh, man, we're losing all these experienced players to the portal. You know, what's wrong with West Virginia? What's going on at West Virginia? And I'm like, guys, relax. Remember what you were thinking in the regular season? You know, how bad the offense. Yes, those were experienced players, but they were part of the bad offense. We're getting in fresh talent. It might take a minute for them to click together, and they don't have as much experience as what's exiting. But I think this is exactly what West Virginia needs. I think we need a reboot on the offensive side of the ball. Now, as far as transfers coming into West Virginia, I do like to pick up from Clemson. Lynn J. Dixon, the running back. I know Letty Brown is going off to the NFL, and that's going to sting a bit. But getting Lynn J., I think, is going to soften the blow just a little bit. I know he had issues in the locker room at Clemson, which is what limited his playing time. But before last year, the dude was averaging, I think, 6-7 yards a carry, chunking yards, and he's a very fast running back, downhill runner. And we already have Tony Mathis, which, you know, he's the shifty guy, and then Lynn J. can be the downhill runner. So I think that's a good combo. I like Jeremiah Aaron, the JUCO transfer. I think he'll play a big factor in the offense. And then the wide receivers that we do have coming back as of right now, Sam James, Bryce Ford Wheaton, Caden Prather. I'm telling you right now, Mountaineer fans, Caden Prather is the name to keep your eyes on this year. I think he will turn out to be Nico's favorite target. because I think Nico will win the starting position, and he showed a lot of promise. He doesn't have the most experience, but I think he's the most athletic, and I think he can be built into the leader of that wide receiving core. I mean, we are a little thin at wide receiver right now. I will concede to that, but we still have some talent.
Travis, we know we only have you for about 10 or 15 minutes. Everybody check out Travis's work at Last Word on College Football. So, Travis, you kick in with anything you want to say about West Virginia football. And, of course, you're going to be welcome back all the time. So,
yeah, well, so it's interesting, what you said about the fans, Chris, that, you complain about the production on the field from these guys, and then when they hit the transfer portal, you lose your mind. I mean, even when Jarrett Daggy went to the portal, we had a bunch of fans who were, oh my goodness, we lost our quarterback. And you guys asked for him to leave pretty much. So,
Yep.
Just let him go. Let the kid play. But I actually think it's going to end up being a fairly good thing for the wide receiver core, because last year, some of the problem was we couldn't get all of the talent that we had on the field. And now, you've got your starting three, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, Sam James, Sam James, and Caden Prather. Those three guys are good. Sam Brown really resolved his drop issues this past year. He only dropped 2 balls the whole season. Bryce Ford-Wheaton is a good possession guy, and Caden Prather is an over-the-top sort of Shelton Gibson prototype receiver. That's a good group of guys to put in a sort of an air raid model offense that Graham Harrell's going to bring. So I like it. I like it a lot. Jury's still out for me on Nico. I hope he wins, but Graham's comments on Goose Crowder were actually pretty eye-opening. He seems to like him a lot as well. It'll be a battle between those two. Garrett Green might be a switch guy. He may move over to the slot. Who knows? Right on the money about Lynn J. Dixon too. And he can catch balls out of the backfield as well, which is something that, we'll probably see a lot of in this style of offense that we're going to be running.
Yes, I agree with that. I know the biggest issue right now is depth because of the transfer portal. But like you said, we have a good core, and we'll probably pick up some more from, through the transfer portal. I mean, we still have Reese Smith. Gerald Williams is a high-caliber recruit. I like him. And then, of course, Jeremiah Aaron, the JUCO transfer. So, not having, 12 receivers is not necessarily a bad thing. At least consistency. I think that was the biggest problem, too, because even though we had a lot of depth, they didn't get into a good groove because they only played, once every, 3 downs, 4 downs, something like that, because there's so many of them. So whittling that down isn't necessarily a bad thing, and maybe these wide receivers can actually get into that groove. They're just like any other position. The quarterback, the running back, any offensive position has to get into that groove. And if you're only seeing the field a portion of the time, it's hard to get into that groove. So I agree with you on that part. Might be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, if you dig into what Graham was talking about yesterday on his own podcast, what he wants the offense to do is he wants to break the offense down into the things it does well, and he wants to do them often. And in order to do them well and do them with the excellence that he expects, you got to have these guys on the field. You can't have them switching back and forth. And a lot of those timeout issues that we had during the course of the season were all personnel issues, subbing people in and not getting the right play in for the right personnel. So love to see, and I hope it plays out this way, but I hope this consistency comes in. And you're absolutely right about Gerald Williams. I think that he was an overlooked member of our class, which, sort of speaks to the fact that we did bring in a lot of new talent and a lot of good talent. That guy had a killer season his senior year. ESPN had him as a 4-star receiver. And I was surprised he didn't climb the rankings with his season at 247 arrivals, but young guy, but he could get some snaps and really surprise folks. So I like it.
I agree. And the comment up on the board. Is there any chance Jackson Dart will visit and or join his former USC coach? Well, he actually did visit West Virginia, and it was either today or yesterday. Jackson actually announced. No, Jackson is USC. I'm thinking of Tyson Bagent. Sorry, I'm getting my quarterbacks. Jackson, I think he's going to Ole Miss, isn't he? If I'm not mistaken, Jackson Dart.
Well, that's a debate.
Destination.
Okay.
I think Ole Miss what they brought in JT Daniels and the receiver from Georgia.
Yeah.
Yesterday or today, so they might end up with them.
Is that for sure?
That's what I read this morning. I got a ticker on my news feed. I can't swear by it. I wasn't there.
Yeah. I'd put it in like maybe 70, 80% sure. So it's trending in that direction, but waiting on confirmation.
Well,
I was thinking of Tyson Bagent. He was out of Shepherd. He was interested in West Virginia, took visits to West Virginia, but he actually pulled his name out of the portal, so he's not transferring.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that JT Daniels has committed to Ole Miss, but he went to visit.
Yeah.
And things are trending that way.
Yeah. And, I think it would be a good thing to get a quarterback like JT at West Virginia to kind of ease Nico into the starting. But it's not a necessity. It's not, oh, man, we didn't get one, so all is lost. It's not a total necessity. It's a luxury. And like you were saying, Graham Harrell was actually talking very highly of Will Crowder. Don't forget about him. We've kind of forgotten about Will Crowder because of the whole Jarrett Daggy and Garrett Green back and forth last year. So we have some talented quarterbacks in there. Would it help to have one that has experience? Yes, it would help, but it's not a make or break type of situation.
Especially not with Harrell's experience, because he, you forget, like, we're talking about Jackson Dart and him being essentially the prize, one of the three prizes of the transfer market. He was a first year, and Harrell played him a bunch, and he looked pretty good. And Caden Slovis before him, Graham took him over his first year, and he looked really good his first year. And then I can't remember the guy's name, but at North Texas, he had the same thing, first-year quarterback, and kept the offense simple for him. I think Graham actually may actually work better with first-year quarterbacks than he does with guys he's got to retrain.
Okay, so you guys have been pretty clear, but I just want to make sure you both are good without having a veteran quarterback come in through the transfer portal. You would rather stay pat?
I don't know about rather. Okay with. I'm okay if we don't get a veteran. I would actually rather have a leader to ease Nico in there, but I'm not freaking out if we don't get one.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. Rather have a JT Daniels, Jackson Dart, but if we don't get them, I think we'll be fine.
Right, I agree with that. I think Nico is the future of West Virginia. I think me and you are both on the same page as far as we don't want his growth to be stunted or any regression. So it would be better to be able to ease him in, but we also have Crowder and Green, so maybe there can be a small rotation, and it's not totally on his back. And then we'll see him take over full time, third, fourth game, or maybe after the bye week.
Folks, you see on the screen there, we've got a West Virginia channel. So if you're watching this on the West Virginia channel, you well know that. But please subscribe. If you're watching on the main channel here at the Voice of College Football, head on over to the West Virginia channel. It's right there posted in the chat. You can just grab the link. Please subscribe and help us build and grow the channel. We've got great content here with the West Virginia live show each and every week. We got Gold and Blue Dude. We got Travis, who's going to join us from time to time. We got Coos's Corner chiming in with his take. Just talked to him today. He wants to get together with some USC folks to break down Graham Harrell's offensive approach. So we're going to have some great content there. So please join us on the Voice of College Football. And you've got to get on over the Gold and Blue Dudes channel if you haven't. So check his work out. Doesn't just talk about West Virginia, but all of college football. And so certainly check him out right there. Travis Kenobi, our guy on Last Word on College Football. Travis, you guys are too good for me. Man, between Jason Ray, Kevin McGuffey, Tony Siracusa, Travis, These guys are all over my channels as well, providing great discussion. So it's a team effort.
Absolutely. There is one thing that confuses me, though. I've been talking to USC fans about Graham Harrell, and they are not high on the dude. So I did some research. He's a really good offensive coordinator. So the reason I said that is West Virginia fans, if you happen to know some USC fans and you're hearing some, oh, we're glad he's gone, we're having an upgrade, we have Lincoln, just USC fans are just not in a good mood right now. And Lincoln Riley is a really good coach. It might actually be a better offense under Lincoln Riley, but Graham Harrell is a good offensive coach. Go look up the stats. Top 25, and one season, I think it was with Keaton Slovis, they were almost a top 10 offense. So block out the USC noise because they're talking it right now.
Yeah, and that team was actually bad mostly because they fired the coach, two games into the season, and the defense played miserably.
Atrocious.
And people forget how the symbiosis between the offense and the defense, and if one's not doing well, the other is going to suffer necessarily. So they're just mad. But it's kind of proof that we look at our West Virginia fan base, when they get upset, every other fan base gets just as upset as we do.
Exactly. Good point right there. What about the I want Grant Wells comment, the quarterback that came out of Marshall, the transfer portal? How do you feel about him?
I'd probably rather not comment here.
Okay. Well, he was the quarterback, starting quarterback for Marshall. He had some decent numbers, but the problem with Grant Wells is he gets rattled too easy. Kind of similar to what we saw with Jarrett Daggy. He has really good games. When he has a good game, he has a good game, but one little thing, one little mistake, and it throws his game off. So as far as Grant Wells, maybe it could help because he has experience, but don't bring in Grant Wells to lead this team because he's not the future of West Virginia if we were to bring him in. My chips are all in on Nico as far as the future.
Grant, I thought he's already committed to Virginia Tech, actually.
I think you're right.
But I believe so.
I didn't want to say anything
Burmeister entered the transfer portal, and I think they brought in Grant Wells. Yes, you are correct.
But, my mom always said, if you don't have something nice to say, and I think Grant would just be more of the same,
Exactly. He really does remind me of Jarrett Daggy, and I'm not talking trash about him, but it wouldn't be any type of upgrade, so it would be pointless, really.
Grant Wells committed to Virginia Tech on January 6th, 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
So he's gone off the board.
So we'll see him in game 3.
Yeah. So maybe he was saying, I want Grant Wells, because we're going to play Grant Wells. Maybe that was the comment.
We want Grant Wells.
Yeah, there you go. I misinterpreted it.
Well, it's kind of rare that fans pick on a tight ends coach, but my goodness, Quentin is saying, I hope we get a new tight ends coach. Is that because you need a tight ends coach, or he doesn't like the current tight ends coach?
I just think he doesn't like that we're underutilizing our tight ends. Our offensive game plan doesn't really call for much tight end action, and we're seeing in the NFL and college football that a lot of successful offenses will use the tight end. I think we will use the tight end because we're recruiting at a high level at the tight end position. So if you're recruiting them, you're going to use them. Not necessarily on the tight ends coach, but to counter that, I would say I'm not necessarily going to say we need a new offensive line coach, but something needs to happen because that was one of the worst aspects of our entire offense last year. Couldn't keep hands off of Jarrett Daggy, couldn't open up holes for Letty Brown. So that's one piece of the puzzle that needs to be solved.
Yeah, Trickett was the tight ends coach last year, and Sean Reagan is being moved from quarterbacks to tight end with Graham's addition. I don't know. I don't know if he'll end up being a good tight ends coach or not, but we have the room. I think we have six or 7 tight ends on scholarship. We have as many tight ends on scholarship as we do wide receivers right now.
You could run one of them in a slot.
Yeah, no, we probably will. I mean, Graham said it in his comments yesterday that he ran a lot of 12 personnel last year at USC because they were thin at receiver and deep at tight end. I think he'll run the offense to what we have.
And that's why I'm really excited about this Graham Harrell hire, because if you look at the offenses that he runs, it's not just about scoring points. It's about moving the ball, moving the chains, and taking some clock. And yes, taking shots in the form of the air raid. But West Virginia fans do not realize that the offense, no matter who the quarterback we're going to see, the offense that we see in 2022 is going to be completely different than 2021 in a positive way. We're going to throw the ball more, and I think we're going to use a lot more misdirection running plays, because Graham Harrell likes to do that as well. So we'll see a lot of misdirection and a lot of shots taken. I think Mountaineer fans are in for a pleasant surprise.
That might help the offensive line play too.
Exactly.
Misdirection does kind of mask deficiencies. Interestingly, I was thinking about this the other day. I think every Mountaineer fan knows, it's no secret, that the weakest spot on our line was left tackle. And Nico's a southpaw. So, frankly, that might actually benefit him, because his blind side is on the right, not the left.
Right.
So we'll see how that shakes out. But I hear the criticism of Matt Moore, and I understand it. Matt Moore, though, he built a good offensive line at Texas Tech, a really good one. And I think that we may suffer more from lack of experience on the offensive line than lack of good coaching. I'm kind of, and I'd be willing to bet Coach Brown is on the same page, that he's like, I'm going to give him one more year, and if it doesn't work out, we've got to make that change. Fans may not be happy with that right away, but if they improve, I think they'll be more than happy with it. Wins cure all, right?
Exactly. And I'm in the same boat as you. You know, I was frustrated with the offensive line, but if you look at the overall picture, if I'm not mistaken, I think West Virginia had the youngest offensive line in the Big 12. So it was one of the more inexperienced offensive lines in the nation. And, you know, I get the fans being frustrated with the offensive line. I was too. And we do have a lot of talent. So it's kind of hard to give that excuse of, they don't have much experience, because they have a lot of talent. But experience matters, especially when you have to gel with 4 other individuals. So I think that our offensive line will take a step forward. But if not, then Matt Moore would definitely be on the hot seat after this year if we continue to see the problems we saw last year.
Right.
It's
and he
always
should
been
be. I wouldn't disagree with it at all.
It's always been my thought that, every team's different, every situation's different, but by and large, that the offensive line coach is the most important unit coach on the field, both sides of the football. He's got the most complex situation with players. First of all, like you say, Chris, he's got 5 players to deal with. And typically there's a struggle between, do we put our 5 best players out there? Or do we put the best player in that particular position? Because your 2 best players might both be left tackles, and that might be their best position. But you got to figure out what's the best combination. And so they're constantly going through spring camp, going through summer camp, figuring out, do these guys work better like this with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or with 1, 3, 2, 4, 5, or and working that out. And they, unlike any, the secondary's got to work together. The linebackers have to work together, but not nearly to the extent the offensive line has to be cohesive, has to be really good. And that's why there's a number of teams across the country that mold tremendous offensive lines, not with the greatest prospects in the world, if you can get them to work together, and other situations where you got a bunch of 4 and 5 stars up front, but they don't work well together and they're miscommunicating and it just doesn't come together. You need that cohesion.
Exactly right. To your point earlier, when you look at other positions like linebackers, secondary, wide receivers, these are positions that, they're responsible for either another player from the opposition or a zone on the field. With the offensive line, you're in flux. Things change constantly. It's not that you're necessarily responsible for this section or this man. It's protection, shifts, all types of complexities that people don't even realize the complexity of. So I agree with that. And that's why, I'm okay with giving Matt Moore another year because they were very, very young. But I am with the fans on if we don't see at least some improvement. I'm not expecting, the best offensive line in the Big 12 or anything like that. But we need to see at least some improvement for Matt Moore to keep his job. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, and the good thing is it's actually, to me, relatively rare for an offensive line to improve during the season just because of the nature of the work that they're doing. A lot of it is footwork and strength that gets built through repetition off season. I actually thought the offensive line took a pretty big jump after that bye week, after the Baylor game. We had a bad game or two in the last 6, but in the first 6, we had 6 bad games.
Yes.
So there was improvement mid-season, and hopefully that trend continues.
I was going to say that earlier, actually. I think that was a noticeable when we had that bye, coming out of that bye, our offensive line got better and better and better. Now, that's not to say they didn't have a down game here and there. They did. But those first 6 games, they were just bad. I mean, they were missed assignments. Their footwork was off. They didn't have their hands in the right place. Something was just completely off. There was no excuse as to why we lost to Texas Tech. That was horrible. And I admit it, I threw a fit. I threw things. It was bad. That was the worst loss of the year. But after the bye week, you could see that the offensive line was working together. Maybe before the bye week, because of their inexperience, they weren't working together. They were just trying to prove, themselves. They were, and that's fine. That's not being selfish. Sometimes that's how it is. But I think that the coaches sat them down, and they're like, if you go down, all of you go down. So that's why you got to work together. It's not a me thing. It's a we thing. And we saw the improvements, down game. I think our worst game after the bye week was the Oklahoma State game. But besides that, I think they stepped up and played pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, gentlemen, it's time for me to drop off. It's been a pleasure. Look forward to talking with you all again, and take care.
Absolutely, Travis. Appreciate you stopping by. You're welcome back anytime.
Happy to do it.
I want to get him on
Travis
my show.
Kenobi there from Last Word on College Football. What's that?
I said I'm going to have him on my show. He's pretty good.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Get him on there. Get him on there. I was going to ask him briefly about Jarrett Daggy. Of course, we put that to rest, and you had your say on that. This is the best decision for both parties, that he move on. But I'm noticing that he is yet to be picked up by anybody, and I'm just.
Well, he actually signed with Bowling Green State. Talking about Jarrett Daggy.
I
could sign with Bowling Green State. It was Western Kentucky. Excuse me. Western Kentucky is who he signed with, but that's still in the area of where he came from. He actually transferred from Bowling Green State to West Virginia, and now he's transferring back to Western Kentucky, which is the same type of area. But I think he'll be all right over there. Jarrett Daggy is not a bad quarterback. Just the situation that he was thrust into as far as this year was just he's not a very mobile quarterback, and our offensive line was bad. It was a bad combo. So I think he'll be all right. I really do.
The situation he's thrust into now, though, at Western Kentucky is that the previous quarterback, Bailey Zappi, threw 62 touchdown passes and for over 6,000 yards. So I don't know if we're going to expect that out of Jarrett.
Yikes. I didn't think of it that way. He broke Joe Burrow's record. Man, that's a bad. Jarrett Daggy, man, I feel bad for you, man. You have the worst luck in the world. I mean, probably one of West Virginia's worst offensive lines of all time, and then now you got to follow up a quarterback that just broke an all-time touchdown record. That,
he could throw for 4,000 yards and 40 TDs, and those people could be like, "This guy's a bum.
Get him out, transfer."
So I don't know what's going to happen there.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I didn't think of it that way. Good point.
Well, I did go to our channel to look through the comments that have been left to the videos, but I didn't really find anything there. But we appreciate everybody that's commented to the videos that have been posted on the West Virginia channel. And once again, we've done this now for 6 consecutive weeks. We expect to be here every Friday, whether that's Golden Blue Dude and myself. We got Travis is stopping by, Travis Kenobi, who we just heard from, and of course, Kuz's Corner. So we will have, maybe we'll bring in some others, who knows, to talk West Virginia football. So we'll always have a different discussion for you, and we'll be answering your questions and comments. And we wanted to look at the schedule.
Yep.
And you know what I have to say about the schedule. I am proud of West Virginia football. I'm impressed. I credit them a ton for going out and scheduling. This doesn't happen with a lot of teams. There's probably, it's a little bit better than it used to be, but 15 or 20 teams in the country, maybe. They go out and schedule 2 quality Power 5 teams.
Yep.
And they've got it coming up. And right out of the gate, the backyard brawl, right out of the gate.
Yeah. That's a lot right out of the gate. And I was really, really nervous. Now, okay, let me back up. I was very confident once the bowl game was over, because I knew bye-bye Kenny Pickett, he's gone. Okay, good mood, all is well. And then we hear that Caden Slovis is transferring to Pitt. Why he chose Pitt, no idea, but it is what it is. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not good. Then we get Graham Harrell, who's the guy that knows the guy. He was the quarterback's coach and the offensive coordinator for Caden Slovis. So, he knows his tendencies. He knows Caden Slovis, the football person, inside and out. So I'm a little bit more relaxed, and I do know that West Virginia fans, there's going to be a lot of them at that Pitt game. This isn't going to be your normal home field advantage by Pitt, even though they don't ever really have home field advantage because they can't fill it up anyways. But I think it's going to be a good game, and I'm really interested to see how our offensive line handles that Pitt defensive line. That's the one thing that I'm kind of worried about, because Pitt's going to have a pretty good defensive line. So if they're able to get pressure on Nico and shut down the running game, it's going to be a long day. Our defense is going to be fine. We saw it last year. We lost a ton of our key players. We weren't elite like we were in 2019 or 2020. Sorry, I got my years mixed up. But we were pretty good. We were still pretty good. We weren't good enough to win games, but we were good enough to not lose games. I think our defense takes a step forward this year. So I'm not worried about our defense. It's that trench matchup between West Virginia's offensive line and Pitt's defensive line. Having said that, I have watched Nico's film, and he's pretty good at avoiding the sack. He's not the best dual threat quarterback in the world, but he's mobile and he's good at not taking in a sack. So if he can extend plays and, a little check down, dump off, and keep from those big time losses. People don't realize there's a big difference between throwing the ball away or a little check down of 3 yards and taking a 4-yard, 5-yard sack. That's a big difference. You don't have to make a tremendous play on certain down and distances. Sometimes it's just don't make a stupid play. So I'm very confident in Nico to not do that. I think we'll see some Will Crowder. But I'm not going to lie. I'm still a little nervous because I actually have something on the line. Me and Talkus Pitt have a bet on that game. And when West Virginia beats Pitt, he has to sing Country Roads, and I get to record it and put it out on a video. But
Nice.
if something crazy, if hell freezes over and something crazy happens and Pitt somehow beats West Virginia, then I have to wear a Pitt jersey on one of my videos and, full shot, not just head above and barely see it, full shot. So I have something on the line. So not going to lie, a tad nervous about it.
I got to think that, I don't think the early lines from Vegas have come out yet.
I don't think so.
On the games, on the week 1 games, but I'm going to take a stab at this one, and I'm usually pretty decent at this, but it's so far away, who knows, but Pitt at home, but obviously, like you say, the home field advantage. I find it that they would have some difficulty impressing recruits when they bring them to games there. They're playing in a pro stadium. There's usually like 25,000 people there. I just can't imagine them impressing recruits who are going to other schools in that area, and then they bring them to Heinz Field and they think, isn't this where the Steelers play? We're kind of like a second-class citizen here. But anyway,
And if you're not a Pitt fan, a lot of people don't realize that stadium is not on campus. You have to. I think Talkis Pitt said like 5 miles. That's got to be like a big red flag for recruits. So I don't know.
It's a deterrent to. It doesn't seem like a big deal to people that are adults and have cars and just hop in their car and drive wherever they want. 5 miles, big deal. But you got to think, college kids, you need to make it as easy for them as possible to go to the game. They want to be on campus. They need to walk to the game, not find some kind of public transportation or who's got a car so that's not a good situation. They should look to, and I'm sure the expense is just a difficult hurdle for them to jump at this point. They probably get a good deal there. But to your point, Pat Narduzzi came in from Michigan State, was a defensive guru there that built some tremendous defenses that finished top 5 in the nation. And he's pretty much done now the same. It's taken him a few years, but at Pitt, and they were second in the nation in sacks this past year. And they have been in that top 2 or 3 in sacks like 3 or 4 consecutive years. Regardless, so even losing players, they have been able to maintain this tremendous pass rush.
Yes, and that's what I'm worried about. Now, if we can kind of capitalize on their over pursuing and do the draws, something that, because they're going to be coming full speed for the sack, so maybe we can counter that with some draw plays or some counters. But once you get past that first line of defense, Pitt's not the best. Their secondary not all that great. Linebackers are okay. But it's that defensive line that's the biggest hurdle when you're playing Pitt. That's why I'm concerned with it. But I like Graham Harrell and the way he game plans. So, I trust that he's going to game plan for that defensive line. And it'll be interesting to see how he counters that pressure that the defensive line from Pitt will give West Virginia. It will happen. Prepare yourself, West Virginia fans. They are going to give us pressure on the defensive line.
Yeah, that is going to be huge right out of the gate at Pitt, West Virginia at Pitt. If you're a traditionalist, even if you don't root for either team, if you're like me and you're just a college football nerd, you got to love this. This is a game that should be played. You got to love this.
Absolutely. And I've been blessed. I was born in 82, so in my lifespan, West Virginia has actually dominated Pitt. Now, there's that one year that we don't want to talk about, 2007. We all know what happened. But besides that one year, West Virginia has owned Pitt since I've been alive. Now, Pitt owns the lead in the all-time series by, I think, 27, 28 games, something like that. But in my lifetime, I've enjoyed West Virginia beating down Pitt. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I'm confident that we'll see another West Virginia win over Pitt. But this will not come easy. I will give Pitt credit. They're going to be a good team. That defense is going to be tough. If we can get past that first level on the defensive line, though, I think we'll be able to move the ball.
So I am attempting to post the schedule here. And while I do that, you can talk about the next couple of weeks coming up after that with dive right into Big 12 play with Kansas at home and then Towson after that.
Well, those two, I say those two will be tune-up games, but we saw Kansas take a step forward this past year. They beat Texas. They gave us a pretty good game. I know they finished the season with, only 2 wins, but throughout the season, they got better and better and better. Now, this will be in Morgantown. I expect us to win this game, but we can't sleepwalk. This is not the Kansas team. I don't think that this is going to be a Kansas team where we could show up and play our D game and be all right. As long as we play our, C+, B- game, we should be fine. So we get Kansas, confident we'll beat them by at least 2 touchdowns, especially being in Morgantown. Then we get another tune-up game against FCS Towson. Towson has been pretty decent in the FCS, but no worries there. So we should, at worst case scenario, we should go into Blacksburg 2-1, but hopefully 3-0. I'm thinking more 3-0. So we go into Blacksburg, play Virginia Tech. We just took back the Black Diamond Trophy this past year. And if we have to give it back the following year, I'm going to be mad because Virginia Tech has had that thing for a long time. We finally got it back. Let's keep it. And I think West Virginia has a pretty good shot of beating Virginia Tech because they lost a lot from this year's team. We have a coaching change at Virginia Tech. A lot of Virginia Tech will be in flux big time. I don't know if they'll know their identity. I don't think Virginia Tech's going to have a very good defense. So it wouldn't shock me if West Virginia goes into Virginia Tech and beats them by 10, 13 points. At the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if Virginia Tech somehow beat West Virginia by a field goal. I think it's going to be a close, good game, but I do think West Virginia is the better team. The next game is where the Big 12 play starts at Texas. If there's one team in the Big 12 that I would consider a rival of West Virginia, I would say it's Texas. Number one, they turned the horns down thing into an actual thing, started acting like babies, made it into an actual penalty. And hey, we turned that into merchandise. I have a shirt that says horns down. So we try to capitalize on when people whine. So that's what happened. This is a pretty good rivalry too. I think it's split right down the middle, 5-5. It is on the road. Texas, it's probably going to be over 100,000 people in that stadium. We have beaten Texas at DKR, but it's difficult. It's very, very difficult. I think we'll split Virginia Tech and Texas. We'll win one, lose one. And if I had to lean one way or the other, I would say we beat Virginia Tech and lose to Texas. I hate saying either one of those, but that's just my gut feeling. And then finally, we get a much-needed bye week. I know it's early in the season, just the first week of October, but if you look at those first 5 games, that's a lot to start off a season on, minus Towson and Kansas, Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Texas. So I think that bye week is in a pretty good spot. And then after that, we get Baylor at home. I forgot about that. For some reason, I was thinking we have Baylor on the road. Baylor, I hate to say this, but I have to admit it. I'm actually a little bit jealous of Baylor. They bring in a new coach, and he's thriving over there. We're over here with Neil Brown, and, things aren't going the way that we want them to go. But he's making some changes. I think Neil Brown has a great plan, but comparing us to Baylor, we have to get it out of our heads, because if we start doing that, we're going to start getting angry and maybe making some bad decisions. But Baylor is in a good spot right now. But we've been pretty successful against Baylor in Morgantown, so that gives us a shot to upset Baylor. Now, I'm not sure how good Baylor's going to be. They were kind of an anomaly this year. Can they keep it up? I think they have the personnel, but things change, schedules change, so I don't know what the line on this would be. Now, at this point of the year, we'll know what West Virginia is.
Chris, I can understand that out of West Virginia fans. With the history that West Virginia has and the lack of history that Baylor has, and knowing they're in a good position in terms of recruiting, in terms of the state, but still they're having to fend off Texas Tech, of course, A&M, Oklahoma, TCU. So they've got a zillion players. They're on every street corner, but they've got a zillion schools there as well. But if I'm a West Virginia fan and I'm a top 15 to 20 program all time, and I'm looking at Baylor and I'm thinking, they just won the Sugar Bowl this year and won the Big 12. 2 years ago, they went to the Big 12 championship game. They're popping up every few years as a top 10 team. 2014, they went to the Cotton Bowl. They were Big 12 champion. They're somewhat consistently jumping up as a top team. I would get a little frustrated by that.
Yeah, and that's why I was saying, you can't look, as a West Virginia fan, you can't look at that for too long, because that might make you start thinking things you shouldn't think, and especially the higher ups in West Virginia make decisions they shouldn't make. For whatever reason, Baylor's working right now. We just need to focus on West Virginia and do the best we can to get better going forward. I like this game, though. It's right out of the bye week. We saw what happened this past year right out of the bye week. It's at home. I think this is a good combo. If Baylor is as good as what they were last year, this is a good combo for West Virginia to pull the upset. It's the exact right ingredients for us to do that. I like the spot of when and where we play Baylor this year. I think we get the win.
And by the way, before we get to the back half of the schedule, to answer your questions, Pitt's up 61-40 in the all-time series. West Virginia is up on Texas 6-5.
6-5. For some reason, I was thinking it was a split, but I'll take 6-5. I like
There
it.
you go, 6-5.
Yeah, because we won the first. It's pretty much been us and them, and then we switched it to where the home team started winning. So, yeah, that makes sense. But
There's
after
the stretch
Baylor,
drive right there.
say it again.
There is the stretch drive for you right there, Texas Tech.
Yeah, this is always the stretch of the schedule that I absolutely dread. But this year, I don't think it's going to be as bad because the front half of the schedule is brutal this year. So it's just going to be a continuance. But after Baylor, we go on the road to Texas Tech. For whatever flipping reason, West Virginia has issues beating Texas Tech. I'm almost positive that they lead the series and by a decent margin. Even last year, West Virginia, I still think West Virginia was the better team, but we came in there sleepwalking, lazy, missed assignments, and boom, Texas Tech walk-off field goal. I don't like this game. I don't like where it's placed. I think West Virginia will lose this game, to be honest with you. Texas Tech has just been a thorn in our heel. But we move on from that. We get TCU at home. TCU just fired Gary Patterson, longtime head coach. A lot of moving around. Honestly, I think that's going to be an easy win. And then the last 4 games. This is where it really gets brutal. At Iowa State, then Oklahoma, Kansas State, and Oklahoma State. I would be happy in those last 4 games if we split it 2-2. I guess win the 2 home games and lose the 2 road games. I would be okay with that. Not just because of splitting it, but that would mean that we finally have a win over Oklahoma. I think this will be one of the best chances we have. Lincoln Riley is off to USC, and they're coming to Morgantown. I think West Virginia has a pretty good shot of beating Oklahoma this year. So maybe we do split those last 4 games 2-2, and we finally get that win against Oklahoma. Don't know when they're going to go to the SEC, but hopefully we can get at least 1 win since joining the Big 12 before they go to the SEC. So let me do my total real quick. I'm going to say win against Pitt, win Kansas, win Towson. So that's 3-0. I want to say split Virginia Tech and Texas. So that's 4-1 right there. Win over Baylor. That's 5-1. Lose to Texas Tech, 5-2. Beat TCU, 6-2, and then split the last 4. So we're looking at 8-4. And that's what I've been leaning towards this whole time. I think West Virginia has a good shot of going 8-4, and that's a pretty good step forward from this past year.
West Virginia's got a slight edge on most of these teams in the all-time series, which we've talked about this in the past in regards to the all-time series. This goes to show you right here, when you look at the all-time series numbers, why West Virginia doesn't belong in the Big 12, because they weren't playing any of these teams before they joined the Big 12. You know, they don't have more than like a 10-game series against anybody, but because they weren't playing before. So that's your clue right there. So anyway, they're up 6-5 on Texas Tech. They're up 7-4.
West Virginia's up.
Pardon me?
You say West Virginia's up on Texas Tech?
6-5.
Oh, wow. Oh, I thought Texas Tech was up on us and that's just since we joined the Big 12, right?
Probably.
Okay.
That's only 11 games, so that would be.
I'm actually surprised. I like that.
They might have one other game, because that was 2012 through 21. That'd be 10 years.
Right.
So there might have been one other game. I'll have to look at that. 7-4 West Virginia up on TCU.
Yep.
West Virginia's up on Iowa State 6-4.
Did not know that. I like it. Okay.
Of course, the Cyclones have been good for about 4 or 5 years now, but before that, pretty awful. You don't want the Oklahoma. You don't want the Oklahoma series.
Oh my gosh, I want to talk about it.
11-2. Okay. Kansas State's up on you 6-4.
Yep, because they dominate us. I think it was like 5 in a row right out of the gate, and then we went on a winning streak. So we're on the road to evening that up.
And Oklahoma State's not a great one with 7 straight. Now it's 9-4.
Yeah, they've been tough.
That's it.
But I'm actually surprised about the Texas Tech lead. I thought Texas Tech because I know we've struggled with them. Maybe I was just automatically turning that into a loss. And, we've struggled but beat them. So I'm okay with that. What do you think about the 8-4 when you look at the schedule? Do you think that's doable? Am I in the ballpark? Am I way off?
Well, before I answer that question, let me ask you this, and this comes to mind only because you went through the Virginia Tech game, and I just released a rankings of not 2022, but finished up in 2021, ranked the teams. And of course, we know how close the game was between those two. They both went 6 and 7.
Yep.
So I had, where do you think I had West Virginia ranked in the top 130? I ranked everybody 1 through 130.
If I had to guess, I haven't seen that video yet, so this is a guess. If you ranked West Virginia, and what did you base it on? Just the season?
Just
okay.
2021.
I would say you ranked West Virginia maybe 68, 69?
57.
Okay.
So I had West Virginia 57, Virginia Tech at 58. So that came to mind when I saw that game.
Okay.
So I typically look at these as probabilities. So the probability is that you're going to split against Pitt and Virginia Tech. That's what's the probability. Not that you can't win them both or lose them both, and if somebody held a gun to my head and said there's going to be a sweep, I'd go West Virginia's way. Right. But I'm going to go 1-1 there. So it's a 3-1 start. Texas, boy, they're a wild card. I'm going to go. I'm going 6 and 6.
Okay. So I'm guessing, hold on. So I'm guessing Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. So I'm guessing you have us losing to Baylor, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. We split the Virginia Pitt. Who's the other loss? Would it be Texas?
Well, you got 5 losses in conference and 4 wins. I'll go with the wins. Most likely Kansas.
Yep.
TCU at home. Kansas State. And an upset against somebody, whether that's Oklahoma State or Texas or Baylor.
Yeah. If you were going to pick one upset, I would suggest Baylor. It's at the right spot. It's in Morgantown. So if there's one that you're not sure of, Baylor's the one to pick.
Yeah, coming off the bye. Yeah.
Yep. I just like Graham Harrell's offense that he calls. I understand why you're going 6 and 6. Trust me, I get it. But I really think that this offense that we're going to see this year is going to be completely different, because what was our biggest issue? It was scoring points. It was moving the ball. Our defense always kept us in the game. We had, out of our 7 losses, 4 of them were 50-50 football games. 5 of them, because we actually won one. If we could flip all 4 of those, we would have had a great season. But the missing ingredient was the offense and that offensive line. I think we can at least flip 2 or 3 of those 50-50 football games, and boom, there you go. An 8-4 football game. That's my equation going into this season. How do we get better? Well, our defense is fine. We saw us lose a ton of key players from 2020. It was still fine. I'm not worried about the defense. So if we can flip, we had 4 50s. If we can flip at least half of those, that right there is a 7-5, 8-4 season. If we can flip 3 of them, you might be talking about a 9-3 season. And I'm confident in Graham Harrell, and I think our offense is going to be light years better than what it was this past year. Now, is that too much confidence? It might be. But honestly, in my head, I'm like, how could it be any worse? I mean, that's one of the worst offenses I've ever seen. at West Virginia. I mean, my entire existence, one of the worst, and we still made a bowl. So just a little bit of improvement, flip some of those 50-50 football games, and boom, there you go, 8-4, 9-3.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate. How many games did you win by one score? Let's see here.
I think just
Virginia
one.
Tech.
Virginia, hold on. Yeah, I'm going to have to think. Virginia Tech.
Iowa State.
Iowa State. Yes,
Texas,
that was an upset.
Kansas. 4.
Was Kansas one score?
34-28.
Okay. And what was the other one? Was it Texas?
Texas, Kansas.
Yeah, that's the 4.
Iowa State, Virginia Tech.
Yes, and I see what you're doing with that. I understand. And those were one-score games. It could have went either way. But the Texas game, I don't think we were ever in any real trouble. They made they had a chance with the Hail Mary, but we dominated that game. The Kansas game, same thing. The Iowa State could have went Iowa State's way. I'll give you that. And what was the last one?
Virginia Tech.
Virginia. Oh my gosh, it definitely could have went the other way. I was at that game, and if they would have scored that touchdown, kicked the extra point, game over, we lose. So that one definitely could have flipped back over.
Yeah,
and so if we can keep them and then flip them, there you go.
Yeah, well, what you're saying makes total sense because I have people throwing scores at me all the time, and then you got to put it into context. So the score is one thing, and you can start there, but you got to. There are definitely one-score games that are down to there are 17 and 20-point games that were great games until 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
Shoot, Notre Dame and Wisconsin this past year was one of the best games I saw, and it was 42-13 at the end. There were 28 points scored in the last 5 minutes of the game. And then you see one-score games where it looks good on paper, but one team, had it sewed up. So,
well, I mean, look at the guaranteed rate bowl. I mean, 18-6, that's only a 12-point margin. But if you watch the game, West Virginia didn't have a chance in that game. I mean, Minnesota totally dominant, and I knew it was going to happen. I saw the matchup. It was a bad matchup. But if you go by final score, if you go back and look at the final score, I mean, 12 points. Maybe if West Virginia could have scored a touchdown here and no, that was not happening. Minnesota was clearly the better team, and they dominated us. So I completely agree with that. Yes, context.
All right, folks. This is our West Virginia show that we aim to bring you each and every Friday here at the Voice of College Football. So it's simulcasted at the Voice of College Football, our main channel, and also on the West Virginia channel that we would like you to subscribe to. So please head on over there if you're not there, and please subscribe. It helps out myself, Golden Blue Dude, everybody. We're trying to build West Virginia football conversation, and you can help us do that by subscribing. And the reason you want to do that for yourself is you hit the bell for the notifications and you know when we go live, because we can't always be at exactly the same time every week.
Yeah, that's a fact.
And definitely get on over to Golden Blue Dude's channel right here on YouTube and support him as well.
I will say this. If you're looking for somebody that you're always going to agree with, every stinking video, then this is not the channel for you. But if you have an open mind and you're okay with different opinions, then you need to check out Golden Blue Dude, because that's what we're all about.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, it's been a good time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. I look forward to next Friday. Already.
Absolutely. Everybody, lock it in on Fridays. We're going to be here as much as we possibly can. If we can't make it on Fridays, we'll find an alternate date, but Friday is the goal each and every week. So be back here next Friday. In the meantime, subscribe. In the meantime, tell your West Virginia friends that we're here at the Voice of College Football and Golden Blue Dudes on his channel. And please subscribe.
One more thing.
Yep.
Let's go Mountaineers. Always have to say it. Let's go Mountaineers.
Bam.